Hello, citizens of the verse, and welcome back to the final installment in the Bounty Hunting Career Guide. Most of this is going to be about partnering up, and tactics you can use when working together with a group of bounty hunters, and of course ways of making sure that you can all get paid even if only one of you gets to bring the perp in. I'm also going to be addressing trolling and how to prevent it, how the detention and cryopod systems are going to work, talk about placing bounties on other players, as well as talk a little bit about freelance bounty hunters and giving a little summary on the state of bounty hunting as it's going to exist in 3.0. Going solo is going to be fine for the initial round of bounties that you're going to be tracking down, but as things progress you're most likely going to want to start teaming up with at least one other person. There's several reasons why partnering up like this will have a number of advantages over going it alone. First off, having someone else to work with can greatly expand upon your options when going after a criminal. Together you could zero in on your target from several sides, cutting off their means of retreat or having one of you act as a distraction to draw their attention as you move in to make the arrest. Also, having someone to watch your back during a ground chase is going to often mean the difference between success and waking up in a med bay. Another tactic is to have your partner stay in the ship as you go ahead to chase the criminal on foot. Your partner can use the ship to fly ahead and cut them off, preventing them from getting to their own ship and escaping. Whoever stays in the ship can be called in for a quick pickup in case the bounty does make it to his or her vessel, which would expedite the need for you to get into your own ship as well, and fast. One last thing to consider is that you may not be the only one who has backup. Potential bounties can run with gangs or even hire their own bodyguards to protect them. If the criminal you captured was using a ship, then having a partner is going to give you the ability to take it back with you as an additional trophy, or could be given to your partner in lieu of payment for backing you up. Now that I think about it, that may become an interesting form of conditional payment for someone who goes along with you on a mission as backup. They could be paid in equipment, or even vehicles that are confiscated during a hunt that you wouldn't even be able to bring back with you in the first place. There are going to be alternatives to this, like dropping a beacon for the UEE, local police force, or for other factions within the BHG to come and get the abandoned ship, or by calling in another player to tow it back to your hangar, but nothing is going to be as profitable as taking it back yourself. Just as certain pirate ships are designed to work in tandem with one another, certain combinations of ships are going to work equally as well when paired together to go bounty hunting with. This job can be done using a single ship, but in order to capture elite bounties, you're going to eventually need to partner up with other hunters that are flying ships which complement each other's abilities, and who are willing to work together to bring down a common target. Now, for instance, a traditional bounty hunting ship is the Cutlass Blue. As good as I think this ship is, there are some drawbacks to it. First, it's relatively slow, and not the most maneuverable of ships to own, so it might not be the best option to use for chasing down another ship. Traveling with an interdiction ship is going to be a necessity when attempting to hunt down faster ships. Preferably something like a buccaneer that's armed with interdiction-style weapons. They'd be in charge of chasing down the criminal ship, while the Blue can be used to secure it and the prisoners after the ship's been disabled. Another good team-up would be a pair of Avengers. They're fast, and each one of them is equally capable of chasing down a ship, capturing prey, and disabling a vessel. The advantage to this setup is that each one of them are just as capable as the other, and instead of dividing up responsibilities like the Cutlass Interdiction team does, would work together to disable a ship, presenting multiple targets for the enemy to contend with, while doubling their firepower by coordinating their attacks. In this instance, having 3 or more Avengers could be incredibly beneficial when going after a game of criminals, who may all have individual bounties on their heads. And the coordinated firepower of 3 or more Avengers could be a devastating combination for any group of criminals to have to contend with. The Warlock is another great addition to your bounty hunting group. It is a specialty ship that would only have one purpose: to get in close and disable your target with an EMP pulse. On that same note, a new addition to this group would be the Saber Raven, which for my taste is going to be a far better interdiction ship than a data runner. It can use its superior stealth to sneak up on the criminal and blast them with an EMP wave before they even know it happened, allowing you to take the ship with a minimal amount of effort and resistance. The toughest part of teaming up for some people is going to be trusting their partner. Bounty hunting can be an extremely fun activity for a small group of friends who go online together looking for a new challenge to take on. This way you'd ensure that you wouldn't have to worry about your partners during a stakeout. Well, at least that's depending on what kind of friends you have. For people who don't have this luxury to fall back on, luckily there's the mentorship program that, Although it is teaming you up with a rookie to work with, we'll be providing you with someone who would all but guarantee to have a fierce loyalty to both you and the cause. Also, the reputation system should go a long way in determining just how trustworthy a rando is going to be before you choose to partner up with someone you just met in the bounty hunting guild. The rep system should have some kind of indicator built within it that covers players' interactions in this area, and if it doesn't, I'm sure CIG is going to be constantly bombarded with emails until it does. So hopefully between friends, interactions within the BHG community, and the reputation system, it should be far easier to meet people to work with than most other social games have been in the past. Teams of bounty hunters are going to be far more effective at boarding attempts against enemy ships. The bigger the ship you're attacking, the more people you're going to need. Many of the boarding and capturing techniques employed by pirates are going to work equally as well for capturing a bounty, but instead of just jacking some lawful citizen, you're going to be going up against some criminal scum who actually deserves it. It's all the fun of being a pirate without any of the moral dilemmas. A majority of ships that have interior space are also going to have more than one crew member protecting it. Having a group, even a small one, can go far when it comes to crowd control, particularly when you're only interested in one member of the pirate's crew and could care less about the rest of them. The smaller the group that you have, the more likely it is that the other criminals are going to put up a fight, since they have no reason to trust you or have any guarantees that you won't pilfer the ship and its goods after collecting your bounty. Having an extra gun or two pointed at them just might be the very thing that makes them think twice before trying anything. At first, one of my biggest fears, and one that's shared with a large portion of the Star Citizen community, is that introducing bounty hunting is also going to be paving the way for players to start enacting the worst kind of trolling upon one another that's ever been experienced in this game, one that makes any previous thoughts of piracy pale in comparison. I've already played a number of games that allow you to capture other players like Reign of Kings, Conan Age of Extinction, and Ark Survival, just to name a few, and the results always end up being the same. It's gameplay which panders to a smaller demographic which comes at the expense of the rest of the community. It never plays out well and is in complete contradiction to the world that Chris Roberts is trying to create. I'm happy to have learned that the developers are already taking this into account, and that serious amounts of restrictions have been levied on this ability to keep it from being misused, and becoming responsible for devolving this game into a kidnapping simulator for the sole amusement of the lowest common denominator. This has been done by placing rules of conduct upon bounty hunters as to what they can do to criminals and civilians, restricting how bounties are placed, and retooling the way that cryopods and detention units work. A big step forward in preventing trolling can be seen in how cryopods function. For starters, the cryopods in prisons do not work in the way you'd expect. You can't just incarcerate someone or leave them forever suspended at animation or locked in a cell. Once a bounty or anyone else is placed within a holding facility, they become what could be best described as a commodity that's akin to a piece of cargo which then occupies the freezer, while the actual player simply respawns at their last save point and can continue playing the game. So from the player's perspective, they're never actually locked in the pod. There are still obviously a lot of edge cases involved with this system, and it's going to continue to be worked on and refined, preferably after a considerable amount of player feedback has been given. For instance, would respawning cause a player to lose a life as described in the Death of a Spaceman article? Or if so, would that penalty not apply to lawful characters, which would make placing bounties on them pointless in the first place? There's also no other way to actually trap players, even if they are knocked out or tasered, outside of the detention centers that are found in the capital class ships. So far, the temporary workaround for being imprisoned is leaving in the ability to suicide your way out and respawn at your last save spot. Hopefully a better solution than that will be worked out somewhere down the line, but for now, it'll do. The main thing that's going to keep bounty hunters in check is their association with the BHG that has its own rules of conduct that they must adhere to. Your bounty hunting license is going to permit you to carry some non-lethal and small arms into secure zones, the level of which will differ from checkpoint to checkpoint. But once inside one of those checkpoints, you're going to have to be very mindful of the collateral damage their actions may cause, because there will be repercussions for their actions. Use of force against civilians is in violation of the UEE and BHG rules, and doing so may bring the additional wrath of the local militia from whatever area you're in down upon you. Detaining someone who is not a criminal is considered to be kidnapping. Wrongfully injuring someone is assault, and killing someone who is not a wanted felon is an act of murder. Being found guilty of any of these crimes could result in a loss of a bounty hunting license, the gaining of a criminal status that matches their crime, fines, and having to start from scratch to regain their reputation within the BHG. Eventually, players will be able to start placing bounties on one another. Now, before you freak out, there are a few things you should know about this function. Bounties are going to have to be sanctioned by the BHG and will have to adhere to certain standards before being issued. First, the bounty can only be placed against a known criminal. You can't just place a bounty on someone because they insulted your org on a Spectrum thread. But you can place a bounty on someone who stole your ship or committed some other kind of crime against you and got away. So in the end, lawful citizens are going to be exempt from the worry of having bounties being placed upon them by other players. So what's preventing orgs from hiring an unlicensed, aka a freelance bounty hunter, to hunt down and capture lawful characters for them? First off, there's going to be no such thing as an unlicensed bounty hunter. If you're not licensed, you're not a bounty hunter. You're a potential criminal who has access to a cryopod, and as stated before, the pods don't actually detain people. Remember, a licensed bounty hunter's actions are sanctioned by the police as well as the UEE and the Bounty Hunting Guild. When an unlicensed player mimics these actions, they'll be committing acts of murder, assault, and kidnapping, and will be dealt with accordingly. If a licensed bounty hunter agreed to hunt down a non-criminal player for an org, the act could cost them their license, their current standing in the BHG, and make them the focus of police, military, and other bounty hunters alike. In essence, it would be an instant demotion from law enforcement to criminal. People have mistakenly confused bounty hunters with both assassins and the misguided thoughts of classic characters like Boba Fett, who captures people and sells them to the highest bidder with no regard for the morality behind their actions. That's not the way it'll be happening in this game. The intention is to keep bounty hunters from being used as an in-game tool for orgs to harass one another with. They're a sanctioned institution that's run by the Bounty Hunting Guild and is affiliated with the UEE and local police forces of each system to help crush the rising tide of an increased criminal presence. And if people discover a way to abuse this system, it's going to be altered to correct this. That's one of the main reasons to be introducing this system so early in the game, so that the bugs and edge cases can be worked out before it goes live. Freelance, unlicensed bounty hunters are simply going to be just another type of pirate and will be treated accordingly, bereft of any of the benefits that the real bounty hunters have, and will be constantly watching their backs for other criminals, police, and actual bounty hunters. The real problem is going to be when pirate organizations start posting rewards for killing other players on message boards and other areas outside of the game, which is going to be an entirely different situation to deal with. Like many of the other systems that are just starting to come online, CIG is endeavoring to build something from the ground floor up that has never been attempted before on a scale of this level. For now, I wouldn't be surprised if they only had 1 or 2 bounty hunting mission types that are available upon 3.0's release. Or if the prison cells didn't work yet, or if the non-lethal weapon options weren't even available at that time. I also wouldn't be surprised if the only option presented to you was to kill and not capture prisoners during this first sprint, which is intended to test out how well bounty hunting is going to be received after being handed off to the general population. I'm purposely setting my expectations low, and I'm considering anything else that ends up being included as part of the 3.0 update as a bonus. Still, the potential for this career to grow is huge. The possibility is limitless, and the ability to expand upon it is only going to be hindered by the manpower it's being put into its development. The more interest that's shown for this particular career, the more of a priority it will become to the developers. Your feedback is going to be very important, not in just letting them know what we don't like about this career, but also in letting them know what we do like about it, and would like to see more of in the future. Thank you for sticking around for this rather lengthy summation of the bounty hunting career path. If you haven't already, please subscribe to be made aware of when new content is available, and leave a like if you enjoyed what you've seen. It really helps the channel out. Till next time, keep your head on a swivel and never take your eyes off the target. This is the Law of the West, signing off.